Hello, everyone. Today I had the privilege to talk with Joel Sewell, a training sergeant for Dothan Fire Department here in Dothan, Alabama. We had a wonderful conversation about the passion that he brings to the fire service, the necessity for excellence in all their training, and always maintaining, keeping on the cutting edge of their skills so that they are, all firefighters and all personnel are able to adequately meet whatever response and emergency they find. Anyway, we also were able to share a little bit about our time training for ministry. He himself has been a pastor before, and we were able to connect on the spiritual level, the way God comes together to use us in the service of helping others, and how rewarding and how fulfilling that can be. Anyway, join us on this journey. How long have you been with Dothan FD?
Almost 12 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was this your first department?
It is. Yeah.
Did you? Yeah. And you started just as a with their where's their academy?
So I got hired on by Dothan,
Uh-huh.
and then Dothan sent people to Eufaula Fire Department.
Okay.
And the Eufaula Fire Department trained us, and then came back here and started their career here. So it's all through the Alabama Fire College, which is based out of Tuscaloosa. So yeah, everything.
From UA.
Yep. No,
Okay.
there's an actual Tuscaloosa Alabama Fire College itself,
Really?
which is a standalone. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I moved to Florida from Texas, and then from up to Texas.
Okay, we're at in Texas.
Was that?
We're at in Texas.
Houston.
Houston.
And a lot of guys done their fire college at Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And in fact, my old chief became an instructor there.
Okay.
My background is I've been chaplain for various different fire departments since 2007. And so where I've lived in Dallas and then Houston, and then I just moved up here from Seminole County.
Okay.
In around the Orlando area.
Yeah.
And so that was over time, really, my time with firefighters kind of it's shaped a lot of my ministry philosophy, shaped a lot of how I approach ministry, and how it really kind of shaped my theology and my walk in as a minister as well. And so that's...
How long have you been with the Anglican diocese church?
So I was a Baptist pastor up until about 2009. In my last church, last church in that arena was in 2009. In Dallas, outside of Dallas.
We're in Dallas? Or
east of Dallas, in a little thriving metropolis called Fate, Texas.
Okay, yeah.
And
so I lived in Dallas, South Dallas, in a wonderful community called Oak Cliff.
Okay.
Dallas, Texas.
Oak Cliff. The main thing I remember about Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship was where Tony Evans was.
Yep. The school I went to was right down the road from.
Oh, really?
From there, yeah.
Yeah, I did. I went through Dallas Theological Seminary, and it's funny because Suburban Creep was moving east at that time, out I-35, and so the city of Fate had gone from population of about 500 to about 5,000 in about a year or so, and because they were building all these new subdivisions. Well, I was finishing up seminary, but they needed a young pastor there for the small church out there, and so I wanted to get to know the community, and I thought, well, how do I get to know the community nearby here? And this is Fate, and they had National Night Out.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know about this. I don't understand it, but nevertheless, I do for National Night Out. Get all your first responders there within the city square, and met police and fire and so forth. And I met the fire chief, and he was he was a battalion chief for nearby in Plano.
Okay. Yeah.
And but off duty, they hired him as their new chief because they were trying to build up their department from a very rural. Having our annual ball, basically, and just very, very rural department, volunteer department, to something that would meet all of NFPA standards. And so they were going through something of a transformation, and Chief Sean Fay walked up and he just recruited me.
Nice.
He stuck his finger in my chest and says, "Is the pastor? Are you serious about ministering in this community?" I said, "Well, yes, sir." You know the guy.
Yeah.
They're the kind of person that you'll follow their orders even though you just met them.
Yeah.
He pokes his finger and he says, "Oh, I want to challenge you with something. This department's going through a transformation. It needs all of its traditions. It needs a chaplain."
Yeah.
I went, what does that entail? He says, figure it out.
No pressure.
Is
Just
that
figure it
right?
out. Yeah.
Exactly.
And get it right.
I know, right? So I started calling local departments, in Mesquite and in Mesquite, Plano, and Garland, and trying to ask them, like, do you have a chaplain? What does he do? What does this involve? And over time, I had to basically just kind of become the chaplain for Faith Fire Rescue.
Okay.
And I just fell in love with the fire service. It was just, it again shaped me very much. In many ways, shaped how because that church eventually closed, and I was kind of without a tradition for a time, going, I don't have another job, and I had choices of what church I might wind up at, and the fire department had really greatly influenced me because they taught me to kind of look for a tradition that was full of symbol and sacrament. And what I mean by sacrament is that you're so much embody everything you do. It's not just that you have a job; it's that you are that thing.
Job, right.
First of all, you don't really turn it off that much,
Right.
when you're off duty.
Yeah.
Yes, you have uniforms that people can identify, but it really is just the outward sign of the things you carry around all the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of my seminary training, this is nothing against my Dallas Seminary at all. I really like them. But there was all of that training was about function.
Right.
More
Not about being.
Exactly right. Is about more things it was more about things that you do rather than what you are.
Right.
And my mind was blown. First time I was on a big fire with Fate Fire Rescue, and house was fully involved. We got the family out, but still they were able to save some possessions for them over time. Major heirlooms coming out when they're doing overhaul. The family is like, everything came together. The community came together, but still they were able to save some of the things for the family. And when we got back to the station, everybody's cleaned up, and one of the firefighters says, "I'm glad God was with us on that call." And I went, and I just really was curious. I said, what do you mean when you say that? What do you mean? And he says, well, there you were walking around pulling hose and changing out air packs. I'm like, oh, okay. So that's a different view of what you do.
Yeah.
In fact, and it was Chief Fay who one time, it was really interesting because, again, the fire service is shaping my view of ministry.
Right.
And 31 was their first two numbers, and then of course the second numbers were at rank.
Right.
So Chief A was 3101, their assistant chief 3102, and so forth and down the line. He gave me my badge, and it was 3100. And I went, that's interesting. And so one of the firefighters asked him, they said, "Chief, what in the world? Why would you give the chaplain his badge that says 3100? And he kind of looked at the firefighter, but he kind of gave me a side eye, and he says, well, when I'm out in the community, I'm representing the department, the city and the department. When he's out in the community, he's representing God. Do the math.
Makes sense. I like that.
And I just went, and again, something that seminary didn't prepare me for.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh.
Right.
So it gave me the appetites for a more embodied version of everything I've been trained for in ministry.
Yeah, you represent more than just the thing that you do. You represent something so much more greater.
Exactly right.
Than that. And if you can establish that in the fire service, that there's something so much more greater than the thing that you're doing. That you're doing this because of who put us here.
Well, gave me a totally different view of what the term that we use when you say calling. What does that even mean? What's your calling? Because I had been focused on, or I had been trained on something that's called to do. Now I was being acquainted with something called to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it gave me a very different, in my time with Fate, and then later on, my second department, after I had to move for my work and work at a school down in Houston. But then not long, I was able to become the chaplain for a combination department outside of Houston Fire District.
Okay.
Because Harris County is broken up into various different emergency service districts that's outside of Houston proper. And so all these ESDs were, some full-time, some paid staff. Most often their paid personnel are off-duty HFD. And so it was a combination department. I was able to become their chaplain for a few years as well. And it was really interesting because over time, spending time with them, that acquainted me even more with the way in which any given call is fully integrated with the work of God in the world. I hadn't thought about this is all educating me.
Right, right.
And so what I learned over time with Westlake Fire Department was every 911 call started with prayer. This is just my view, that whether a person's conscious of it or not, when the emergency unfolds, somewhere deep in their brain, they scream, "God help me."
Yeah.
And then maybe had the wherewithal to dial 911.
Right.
But by the time they dial 911, that's a call center, a dispatch, a tone, apparatus, and personnel. But those are just the logistics of getting their prayer answered.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, and when I'd ride with that, eventually when I ride on all those calls, and you show up at a medical emergency, most are medical, but show up at a fire or medical, and you see that person's shoulders just kind of slump, like a burden's just been taken off because they're watching their prayer get answered in real time. And so that kind of gave me a different perspective also. Like oftentimes people are looking for they are looking for miracles in the spectacular.
Right.
But any given call, I'm watching the decidedly unspectacular miracle unfolding.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, think about all the different services that we'd like to critique government sometimes for being inefficient and not whatever, and all the different things that have to come together for your GIS systems on the apparatus getting you to the scene.
Right.
How that the city infrastructure has water in that hydrant, and all the things that come together to answer that person's prayer that normally we would think don't work very well, and suddenly here they do. So I think of it the unspectacular miracles that happen. It really shaped how I view things.
Yeah, and I think you could argue most miracles are not spectacular.
Right.
I think I come from a vein that we only look for the supernatural. And so if it's not supernatural, then therefore God is not doing something. Which then I would jump back when you look at Corinthians when it says he gives us gifts of healings.
Right.
It's plural in there. It's not, yes, it can be supernatural, but it's probably not going to. There's so many different ways that God can bring a healing to an individual, whether it be correlating it back to the fire service, you saying that quick prayer, you calling 911, and he's put people in your path who have the ability to go to you, to take care of you, to protect you, to heal you, essentially. And that is God doing exactly what he told us he would do. Right.
Well, there's an old world term that is kind of fallen out of favor, and it's unfortunate, but the term is providence.
Yeah, 100%.
And that term, and you see it in our country's founding documents, but it really is a way of acknowledging that well, I just find it providence as divine intervention through seemingly natural processes that achieve redemptive results.
Right.
And so it's, to the untrained eye, this looks like a natural process unfolding.
Yeah.
But it's divine intervention. That's why we naturally thank God for things that seemingly took place naturally. Because our assumption is he's embedded in all of it.
Right.
So
every bit of it.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So how did you, please, if you would, share with me a little bit about how you go from you're with the department for 12 years?
12 years, yeah.
Okay. And that process whereby you take on more responsibility and now the training sergeant for DFD.
So, like I said, joined the department about 12 years ago, a little less than that. I was working in retail management before that. I went to Bible college. My plan and goal was to be a pastor somewhere. And everything was lined up to that. And moved here to Dothan. And long story short, that didn't work out the way that I thought it was going to work out. I jumped into retail management, was very successful in the sense of how you can be successful in retail management, moving up the ladder, we'll say that. And on the outside, my life kind of blew apart. So my first wife and I lost our first child. Obviously very tough. She ended up passing away in our arms. And through the grief and through the processing of the grief, to no fault of either individual alone, it separated us. We pretty much divided in that, led to a divorce. And I was kind of at a point where, okay, God, what am I going to do? I had a very clear direction where I thought you were calling me. I'm not where I want to be. I'm in a job that I'm not proud to be a part of. And at the same time, I'm still working through, okay, God, how can you use me in this job still? And yet still being in a job where I'm not proud to go home to tell my kids I'm in retail management, And so it kind of just clicked. I've always wanted to be a firefighter ever since I was a little kid. And I was working out a lot at a gym, and there were a lot of firefighters there. So I just started asking the question, hey, what does it take to be a firefighter here in Dothan? And they said, hey, that's a great question. We're actually about to hire, but it's extremely difficult to get on. Back then, it was extremely difficult. It's still not easy now, but there's a lot less applicants. So they said, just go out and apply. It's probably not going to work the first time, but keep on applying. And I was lucky enough to get in. I applied. There were about 300 people who took the exam with me. Out of those 300, it got dwindled down to about 10 of us, the top 10. And from that top 10, me and 2 other people got the job. So I like to say providence as well.
Right,
God clearly orchestrated something.
Right.
Why? I don't know, but he orchestrated something for me to be able to jump into that. And the goal was literally, I genuinely enjoy helping people. And that's the cliche answer that everyone always gives of why do you want to be a firefighter? I want to help people. But there's also sincerity behind that. I think most people who get into it, yes, there's a side of, I want to be the hero. I love doing cool stuff and going doing dangerous things. And that's a lot of fun. It's a great adrenaline rush. But at the heart of it, I genuinely love people. And in hindsight, looking back, I think that's one of the reasons God really worked in my heart on pastoring people and loving people, because I think he was setting me up to do this.
Oh, gosh.
Because part of this job, I would argue, maybe even 100% of the job is there to help people. And no other reason. We get a lot of the stuff we do, we get zero credit for. But we're just there because we genuinely love people.
I tell people, especially with new recruits, I tell them, I say, quit apologizing for the adrenaline rush that you get from this. Because a couple things. One, the natural or spiritual sense of gravity all weighing us down makes it easier to tear down than to build up. So the exercise of real power. I mean, if someone wants to feel powerful, so much powerlessness is plaguing a lot of our young men. And if one wants to feel real power, it's not from destruction, it's from construction.
Right.
It's not from tearing down, it's from building up.
Yeah.
And so, because now you really have defied metaphysical gravity.
Yeah.
Now you really have exercised or been a conduit of God's power who takes more pleasure in creation than in destruction. And so don't quit apologizing for that. And I tell them, I say, the other thing is when they oftentimes say, well, why'd you join the fire service? And they say, well, I like to help people. I say, but you really want to kick down the door too. They're like, yeah, I do.
Yeah, of course.
Go ahead, admit it, own it. Yeah. But there is a rush in being useful.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
All of us like to hear in real time, not at the end of life, but in real time, doing well, good and faithful servant.
Yeah.
There's that divine voice of, this is pleasing to me. This is a good job.
Yeah.
This is, the image of the Trinity from Jesus' baptism. This is my son in whom I'm well pleased. Like we all want to hear that in real time.
Yeah.
And so it's okay to have that rush of helpfulness. Yeah. Because in that moment, God puts you there. Yeah. There's a real sense of fulfilling your humanity in that.
That's good.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine. This is good. It's good conversation. So to end up joining the fire department, jumped right into it. I've always had a great father who always taught us like don't just do something just to do it. Do something to get better at it and to be in a place where you can change the things you need to change. And so that's always been my heart, no matter what I'm doing. So jumping in the fire department, putting myself in a position to where I can make true change. So after 10 years. Of being starting out as a firefighter, being a sergeant, acting captain for a good bit of time, position opened up in training, and the guy I heard was going to take the training captain position. We worked together for a little bit on truck one, and so I walked on and said, "Hey, listen, let's have a real conversation. You're going to be the training captain. There are 2 training sergeant positions open. Before we start anything, before I ask, do you see us working together?" We worked together for about a year and a half. My perception is that we worked great together, but I also live in reality. I know everyone's different. And his response was, "No, I think it would be great. I think we work well together. Let's do this together." So I went home, talked to the family, said, "Hey, so after 10 years, I have the opportunity not to be on a 24-48 shift. What do you guys think about that?" Got some mixed responses.
You're going to be around here a lot. Is probably what they thought.
Yeah. My younger kids were like, absolutely. Like I have 4 total kids now. The younger were like, yeah, let's do it. Let's have fun. My older kids who have known me in this growing up, at first they were a little reluctant, like, it doesn't really matter. We're kind of used to it now. After 2.5 years, I had the opportunity to stay longer, and I asked my son. He goes, "No, I actually kind of like you home, Dad." So we'll see what happens with that. But after a lot of prayer, talking with my wife about it, and really just thinking what the opportunities I would have going over to training. Number one, I have the opportunity to completely influence the department as a whole,
right,
from its conception, from the beginning, coming in,
right,
and really setting that standard. At least what I see the standard should be as a firefighter, physically doing the job, but also culturally, and where I see our department needs to go as a culture. I have the ability to step in. And as I'm really thinking about it, God kind of just hit that on my heart of, hey, you remember that desire and that calling you had to be a pastor?
Yeah.
Again, it's not about holding a position. It's not about having the title of pastor.
Right.
It's about doing and being.
Right.
When you look at eldership and overseers, they're recognized for what they're doing. They're not go get recognized and do.
Right.
And so it's, hey, you don't have to have a title. You don't have to have a position.
Right.
You can just do this and shepherd these young men and women into where they need to be.
There's a sense in which your vocation winds up following your compulsion. I guess. After, because last Saturday was the anniversary of my ordination to the priesthood.
Okay.
I had been a deacon in the Anglican Church for 14 years. I was ordained as a deacon in 2011. And apparently that's not the best idea, because most often when people become a deacon, because we have deacons, priests, and bishops. And when someone becomes a deacon, because they're thinking about becoming a priest. And I became a deacon with absolutely zero desire to be a priest, because, again, I've been a pastor before.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
used to joke that I was a pastor long enough to realize I was called to be a professor. So I enjoy teaching in a university setting. I still teach for the University of Houston online classes, but I enjoy teaching that capacity, but I saw myself as just very unpastoral. And so I remember I've interacted with some bishops before who said, well, I was a deacon for 11 years or 12 years. You don't want to go that long. I'm like, I've already broken your record. Sorry. And so what I did was, my post after that time pursuing ministry, I actually pursued a second career as an archaeologist.
Okay.
And so I was an archaeologist full time, also teaching in a university, but volunteering myself as a deacon at various different churches. Well, if you really want to stay away from, ministry, if you really want to stay away from God calling you into that capacity, stay away from the church altogether. Because if you're in close proximity of what he might have you do,
it will suck you in.
It will, exactly. It's like it's the Godfather 3. Every time I try to get out, they pull me back in. And so what happened was that I was an archaeologist for many years, and then in 2024, I was a deacon serving at a church in Orlando, and they said, "Hey, this church up in Dothan, Alabama, doesn't have a priest right now. They could use someone to, for pulpit supply and to conduct their service. Who wants to go?" And I just raised my hand. I'll go. Shoot, well, that's the worst thing you can do. So, drove up here, conducted the church service for them, and fell in love. And my wife and I had a conversation like, I think this is what we're doing full time now. And so, not long after that, it was, going in the priesthood and coming here full time.
Right.
But the idea was that it was always what made that inevitable was there was no shutting it off. I could never not stay away from ministry altogether.
Right.
Yes, I was making my money as an archaeologist, but it doesn't matter where I went. It seemed like God's always plopping people in front of me who need the gospel, who need compassion, who need grace.
Right.
The weirdest stuff would happen that way. I mean, I became the unofficial chaplain of a bar in Alexandria, Louisiana one time, because I was there on a dig. I was there for 2 weeks on an archaeological dig, but I didn't have the company car, so I could my only nightlife was leaving my hotel to go around and basically have dinner at the local bar right next to it. So I'd show up there with my pipe and just kind of watch the hockey game, and pretty much after a while, someone says, well, my dad used to smoke a pipe, and they start the conversation, and then what do you do? And I share with them a little bit what I do for a living, but then we talk a little bit about their life, and they get to know me a little bit. Within 2 nights, there's a line of people along the bar going, Father Aaron, let me tell you.
Yeah.
It's been rough. And so now they expect you to come back. And my thought was, God, why do you do this to me?
Yeah.
it seemed like everywhere I go, you're constantly plopping things in front of me that showed that somehow I was called to be, and you just can't turn it off. And so you yourself,
almost as if God is the one who gives you the gift to do those things. And so in his providence, he puts people in your path for you to walk in the gifts that he has given you.
Right.
Almost as if God is sovereign or something.
I had a prophet who used to say, when you talk about calling, make sure you don't talk about your calling in such a way that suggests that God left your personality alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
He was working on you the whole time about that.
The entire time.
And someone who's constantly, semper disciplina, always training.
Yeah.
When you're constantly in that training mode, I imagine even on an engine or a ladder company, people are like, he's always thinking about.
Always.
Like,
here he goes again.
I know, right? We don't train till we can do it right. We train till we can't do it wrong.
That's it.
So you start with when did you start with the training division?
So training almost 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
So decided to jump over again, just for the reason of I see things, I've seen things, and we have a very good department. We really do. A lot of good guys who really want to do their job and do it well. But I saw some cultural things that I wanted to speak into. So how can I bring change into it? My dad always said, don't complain about something unless you're willing to do something about it.
Right.
And so I found myself sitting there kind of complaining a little bit. And I heard my dad in the back of my head, well, what are you going to do about it, son? And it was like, okay, all right. So I see some issues in the training area. I have the ability to fix that. So step up and do it. So through all those conversations, decided to jump over and do it about 2.5 years ago. And as a team, we've really taken on, and it's not just me. We had a very good team, very good captain as well, and see a lot of things that need to change. Our chief was on board. Our deputy chief was on board with a lot of the things, and just kind of let us give us the free reign to do what we needed to do, because we saw that we are headed in a direction to make things better. Not for the pride of ourselves. Excuse me. Sorry about that.
Please go ahead. Do what you gotta do.
Not for the pride of ourselves, but really because we wanted to see some turnaround to make things, to make us better as a whole. Again, great department, really good guys, but we always have room to improve, right?
Right. Well, it's funny because it wasn't until I was with my first department that I realized something that we tend to all do. You've seen your normal bell curve distribution, results distribution, and so you have like this major big section in the center, and you have these lower tails, upper and lower tails of that. And what I found is that there's those of us, the rest of the civilians of society, tend to take whole professions and mythologize them as all being in the upper tail.
Yeah.
And so like medicine and, medicine, military, emergency response and so forth, we tend to put them all in the upper tail. What I found it was interesting, is that once you get in that arena, you realize that there's its own distribution in that too, that you have the elites within that. There is an average, and then there's a group of people who you're like, I'm really surprised that they're in this.
Yeah.
My son's in the military have told me like, oh yeah, Dad, the military isn't all the guys who you clapped for as they were walking across the airport over to Delta. They weren't all the ones. You're the best person. But what I found was that my first department I was at is that Chief Fay was taking Fate Fire Rescue from something that was. You might show up, you have a fire, everyone shows up in their personal vehicles. Hopefully someone thought to grab the engine on the way and put the wet stuff on the red stuff. And then you went from that to something that was meeting all of NFPA standards in every way, and the city wanted to pour money into it, and he wanted it to train and be commensurate with those type of improvements. In a short amount of time, it developed such pride and excellence in that small department that I quickly would watch other departments watch the Fate guys very closely, because on mutual aid calls, the contrast became stark. Once upon a time, when I first started there, it seemed like Fate and all the surrounding communities were kind of like similar in terms of rural, volunteer departments. Over time, that contrast started to grow, and the neighboring departments, when we showed up with a brush truck or a mutual aid fire, like they're watching them closely, going, what do those guys do? And there's this constant longing, like, I want to be like them when I grow up.
Guy. Yeah.
And I'd just been spoiled because the same thing that was true in Fate. When I went to Westlake, that wound up being true there, because a lot of guys at Westlake, our emergency service district butted up right next to HFD, so we did a lot of mutual aid with Houston Fire, but then other departments around there were watching Westlake going, how do they do it? Because it seems like they're getting almost really close to what we view from HFD.
Mm-hmm.
And then I come down here to Central Florida, and Seminole County winds up being like this premier ISO class 1 department where everybody else wants to come and train. And it just really was spoiled to constantly be in these departments where everyone else is watching them going, I think I'd like to be that guy.
Yeah.
So it seemed like Dothan kind of has that premier role in Southeast Alabama.
I think so. In the Southeast Alabama, absolutely. And that's another reason why I wanted to kind of step over into that training area, because the only way you can really get to that is to have individuals who take training seriously.
Right.
As a whole, we have to take it seriously as a whole, but also individually we have to take it seriously. And I think we have a really good core group as a whole in the department where individually we take our job seriously. But where can we get when we do that as a whole? Like systematically, if we take training seriously as a whole, I think we truly could be that elite in the area. And I think, fortunately, over the past 2.5 years, and hopefully continue on, we have absolutely jumped into that desire to want to be that elite. And so in that, you see that played out within our training, within our single company drills and our multi-company drills, of not just doing, not just being complacent, doing the least amount of work to check the box off. But really, no, we're out here to train because we understand that we have to have our best day on someone's worst day.
Right.
And what you do in practice is what you do in the ball game, right? And so we got to make sure that our training is on the same level as the ball game as much as we can, and take it that serious.
Because the fire doesn't care.
Fire really doesn't care.
It doesn't care whether you were tired that day. It doesn't care whether you are. It doesn't matter if you were having a bad day. It doesn't care.
Absolutely. And so we, as a whole, I think we've made a really good turn into pushing that into our guys that are already here online, of taking the job even more serious, not being complacent in the job. Take even those small little fire alarms, put on your gear as quick as possible, get there. Yes, we understand that. There's a good possibility it's just a fire alarm because we've been there 10 times in the past 2 weeks.
Yeah,
but still, that one time, and there are cases going on right now where you just get complacent, and that one time that these individuals needed to be ready to go, they weren't ready to go, and unfortunately, families died because of that. Not playing Sunday morning quarterback, I wasn't there.
Right.
I was telling our recruits, I'm the chief of all centers. I can point to times that I know that there are times I have not dressed out the way that I was supposed to go to fire alarm. So I'm not pointing fingers saying shame on you. It's a speaking to me as well. And even that, teaching our leaders as a whole, all of us who lead the department, to take ownership of where we fall short, not just point fingers and say, no, I am the one who doesn't dress out properly. So now I need to start leading by example and start taking the job serious every single call. And I think that culture starts in the training, by taking training completely serious, so that way we can take the calls completely serious as a whole. So I'm able to hopefully push that to guys online every time they come out and teach that. But also, I'm in a great situation teaching recruits that from the very beginning, that every single thing that you do directly correlates to everything on the fire ground. You're in they are probably hate hearing it from me. I say it every single day when we motivate them for not doing things properly. Your inability to do your job correctly will directly affect the individual beside you. And that needs to be in your head every single day you're at work. Not just at work, even in life, but especially here at work. Your inability to do your job will directly affect the individual beside you. If I can't go inside of a fire properly and I can't fight as long as I need to, the guy beside me can't do that. If I'm not at a fit level to where I can do the job inside, I go down. Now my guy is going to do everything he can do to get me out, which means I just didn't do my job, and I put him in a situation to where I really could injure him. And then it goes even deeper. That means I really don't care about his family either, because I'm not going to put myself in a situation. Let's say I do something bad happens and I'm in great shape. Now I got to realize that I cannot put him in a situation for him not to go home to his family, because he's going to do everything he can do to save me, which means he's going even deeper and more danger and he's not going home to his family because I didn't do what I was supposed to do. My inability to do my job correctly will directly affect the individual beside me. And if we all understand that, then we train harder. We do it not for me, yes for me, but not just for me. Not just for the guy beside me, yes for him, but not just him,
Right.
but their family.
I was on a training evolution down in Seminole County, and every now and then when I'm there, just to kind of like encourage, everybody in training. My view when I had an opportunity to be a chaplain is just be, in as much as they'll allow you into their space, be that kind of like just an encouraging presence.
Yeah.
Job on as a chaplain is to be randomly friendly.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes you're just there. Someone's like, "Chap, how you doing?" It's like you just raise the temperature of the room a little bit. And so I visit every station, and my wife and I would negotiate what one night a month to actually spend all night at a station to write a shift, because you want to be able to relate to those 2 a.m. calls. Oftentimes the confessional is the back of the apparatus after that 2 a.m. call when someone says, "Chap, I need to talk to you," before we head back to the rack. But I would go to trainings as well, and one of the training we were doing, they were doing the smoke training in their fire building, and getting everybody used to all the ways in which they have to operate on air, not being able to see anything, crawling along the hose and so forth. And I was absolutely embarrassed because every now and then on those trainings, they would invite me to jump in, like, "Chaplain, bunker up, get on air."
Yep.
I thought, and I went through my bottle so fast.
Yeah.
It was absolutely embarrassing.
Yeah.
I could not believe how out of shape I was. But in that midst of that evolution, the training sergeant talked about, specifically everyone else, your ability to regulate your breathing, to maintain your calm, and to how long you can make this bottle last directly affects how long you're available to the other person you have to work next to.
That's exactly it. And not just the person beside you, but the potential victim that's on the inside.
Absolutely.
If I have a 45-minute bottle, 30-minute bottle, where those numbers are a little weird, I should be able to work theoretically for at least 20 minutes.
Right.
And if I'm consistently sucking that bottle dry in 4 to 5 minutes, number one, that means that I can't be in the fire long enough to put the fire out, to even do the job that I'm there for in the first place. Number two, I can't potentially be where that victim's going to be at, because it might take me 5-6 minutes just to get to that victim.
Right.
And if I've sucked my bottle dry, I'm like, "Sorry, buddy, I got to get out now." Like, it's a learned technique. There's a lot of different things to learn how to do that. But my ability to do so, again, will directly affect the individual beside me or the one I'm going after.
Right. That's so true, especially when I talk with guys, again, talking to the new recruits, what got you into the fire service, what excites you about it. And then I give my little spiel about the way in which you are constantly someone's answer to prayer.
Yeah.
Even non-specific prayers, what I call militaries have standing orders. I think that there are standing prayers that people are constantly saying in their mind. Yeah. And then those standing prayers are for a safe and just society. That's PD. And then they're constantly praying for swift rescue in the time of trouble. That is all the Psalms are about this.
Yeah.
God, please get up, get up off your chair and help me.
Yeah.
And so this idea of you're constantly you've chosen to embody the answer to people's prayers in this way. So I turned to the new recruit. I said, "So I just want to thank you for signing up to be the hands and feet of God." And of course, after they lose all complexion and look at me for a little bit, they're like, "I hadn't thought about it."
Yeah.
But my hope is that would actually spur them on toward excellence.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing in the process, everything you're able to do, from knowing where your equipment is on the apparatus to being able to bunker out correctly, being able to follow the correct procedures, and everything you do is related to somebody expecting God's response.
Yeah.
And so there's an embedded theology to that pursuit of excellence in a sense.
And then on the flip side, not taking, because what you said was very good. Understand that we are the hands and feet of God, but you're not God.
No, right.
And there should be a healthy balance there. An example: we had an individual go through our recruit school a while ago, and we also do EMT and advanced EMT and paramedics. And he was going through his EMT classes. Then went out on a clinical and had the opportunity to go to a downed victim, give CPR, and was having a hard time because they couldn't get him back. And without giving a lot of details, the pretty much the conversation was, I thought I was going to be able to get him back because I'm doing CPR on him. And I just looked at him and I said, hey, well, you're not God. Like,
Right,
you
right,
got to
right.
understand that you get to be the hands and feet.
Right.
But ultimately, God is still sovereign in all of that. And
Right.
and you can't put yourself on the level of, I am there, I will save their life. No, it is. No,
no.
you are a hand and feet for God to do what
Right.
God chooses to do. And when you do your best that you can do, and you did as you practice as much as you could, you did adequate compressions, we gave adequate breaths. In the end, God is still God, and you are not Him. And you just be confident that I did what I was supposed to do. And
We have the record of the Gospels of Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead, but there, throughout the course of his 33 years, we would never assume that that's the only funeral he ever attended.
absolutely, you're right.
So I have a kind of a different take of exactly what you're talking about. So I'm at a church serving at a church in Orlando, and one of the guy's name is Paul, and he's been a big pillar of the church. Everyone likes him. He's a big personality. And then one day I show up on Sunday morning, and I'm like, I haven't seen Paul around. And they're like, well, he's in the hospital. Paul had a massive heart attack last night. I'm like, what? I just had coffee with him 2 days ago. And so the following day, I go up to the hospital, and there's his wife, and they're talking about how, like, nope, they're going to pull the plugs. The doctor says, well, we can keep him on life support. And she's like, are you crazy? He's already got one foot in heaven already. Why would I tether the other one here? And so they go ahead and pull the plug, and he passes. So I thought, oh gosh, that's so tragic. Well, his widow comes to me and she says, Father Aaron, I understand you're part of the fire department. You're involved in the fire department. I said, yeah, a little bit. She says, would you be willing to do me a favor for me? Because I know where they live. I know they're in our district. She says, would you track down everybody related to that call and please thank them, because they were so comforting to me. That tragedy was going to occur, but they were God's grace to me throughout all of that tragedy.
Right.
And I can't tell you how, especially, and she pointed out, especially that woman I talked to on the phone.
Yeah.
And so I tracked down Station 24, B shift, found everyone there, said, gentlemen, I really want to give you a different take on what you consider to be a successful call.
Right.
Because you started CPR, goes to the hospital, can't regain brain activity, they pull him. But I gave them that kind of talk. But then I went to dispatch and found this woman who specifically, I said, do you understand that this widow considers your comforting voice to be the comforting voice of God to her in her moment of tragedy?
Yeah.
Because you talked her through CPR, you got her started on what she needed to do, kept her calm until 24B shift showed up.
Yeah.
And she's like, and they wound up giving a commendation because of that recognition.
Yeah.
I said, so you have to kind of look at some of these calls as what is a successful call?
Right.
Because this isn't a tragedy that you were going to prevent.
Right.
Massive heart attack, he was done.
Absolutely.
It's a weird thing. It sounds macabre when I say this, and some people go, Father Aaron, you sound kind of strange. But since all die, we get to compare them qualitatively. Since all die, that's the equalizer. We get to compare deaths qualitatively.
Okay.
Some deaths are better or worse than others. So, child 6-year-old develops cancer, we say no, absolutely not. That's a tragedy that we all rightly say that's not how it's supposed to go.
Right.
Person lives in their 90s, dies quietly or sleeping, like that's what I want. So to the degree that all die, we get to compare them.
Okay.
And this guy was full of life until he wasn't.
Yeah.
There was no long suffering. There was no slow deterioration over time. He was full of life, and then he's in heaven.
Yeah.
And with pretty much no transition time.
Yeah.
The rest of us all kind of mourned, and like that was kind of sudden.
We mourned the loss,
but he just stepped one into the next.
That's it.
And so I'm like, that's a good death, man.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, even in the midst of all that tragedy, the widow is the one tracking me down, saying, "Please tell the whole crew, from that new EMT that was helping all their captain, and all the way back to the dispatch woman at the call center, how much they were God's grace to me in that moment."
And that's really hard for firefighters or even paramedics. Not all paramedics are firefighters, but all of us who deal with those calls consistently, not to get pragmatic about it, not to get hard-hearted towards it, just thinking we're just in here to do the job, get out.
Right.
I was having a conversation this morning with a new recruit. They're on week 5 of 11 right now. And he was talking about some clinicals that he went on, and he was talking about, Sergeant Sewell, I'm afraid that I'm going to lose my sympathy for people. I genuinely love people. And as he's talking, I'm thinking, I get that. I get what you're saying. You sound like me at a young age. But he said, I'm afraid that I'm at some point, his wife were saying the same thing. They're both afraid that they're going to lose the sympathy that he has for people and grow callous towards the individual things that we have. But to speak to that, we have to realize and understand that, yes, we're there for the moment trying to save their life, but even more so, we are there for the families, and realize that we need to be very cautious, not just to go in, do the job, and get out, because there's so much more than just that one situation going on. And to be mindful, I was very fortunate to have a very good captain at the beginning of my career who understood where I was coming from before I came to the fire department in ministry and just loving people. And even with my daughter who passed away, we went to not the first baby we went to, but just a baby we went to that passed away. I think she was 6 months old. And just something in my heart just said, sit down with the mom. And that wasn't the first baby I'd have gone to, and not the first mom I talked to, but it was like a longing, like a drawing. And I just sat down, and my captain was there. I said, hey, just Captain, give me just a second. He said, okay. And he stayed in the living room. I just felt like, God, just put your arm around her. And I just held, like, I didn't hold her close, but I just like, hey, this just sucks. And I am so sorry. And I looked at her, I said, you don't know me. I've been through this situation, and I do know what you're walking through right now. You're not going to hear a word I have to say right now, but 6 months later, something's going to click. And just remember that God is still there, even in this hurting, even in the not understanding, even when you're cussing God out. And that's okay that you do that. Do that. God is still there, and He is there, and He is going to comfort you and walk you through
so
this.
many of the Psalms can be best summarized, and sorry, guys, for who's listening, but so many of the Psalms are best categorized whiskey, tango, foxtrot.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, so many of them. I mean,
absolutely.
They are. And so it's that cry out, and the only irreverent prayer is the one that doesn't get spoken.
Yeah.
Because it's like, and God, as though God has somehow some sort of thin skin that requires that you say it exactly the right way. And like, come on.
When my daughter was born, she was born sick. We were told she had 5 minutes to live. She ended up living 3 months with us. We were able to take her home, take care of her, spend that time with her. I got the word from the doctor, and my wife at the time hadn't come back yet, and I'm standing in the room, and I'm just dumbfounded. And my pastor, we worked at a church together. He was associate pastor, I was a youth pastor, and Mr. Vaughn just walked in. He's an old Presbyterian minister, Reformed Presbyterian, and I just looked at him, and I just broke down, obviously, and he just looked at me and goes, just let it out, Joel. And I just bleepity bleep 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 bleep, and he just looked at me and he goes, and that's okay. And it just like, in him saying that, it was reminding me like the Psalms is right. It's just be honest with where you're at. Be honest with the true emotions that are there, and God is still going to meet you there, even when it goes against you shouldn't do that.
Oh gosh,
but it's reality. That's
totally
where you
real.
truly are.
And then the thing, and spending time in Psalms, I probably spend way more time in the Old Testament than the New Testament, but that the demand of Psalms is authenticity to God.
Yeah.
That is the
authenticity to God. That's good.
That is its demand.
Yeah.
And it does it critiques the attempt to package ourselves in an acceptable manner to God.
Yeah.
Where He keeps on swiping away those masks, going, stop it. I'm done with no. Don't feed me a line in what you think I ought to hear. What is going on in your heart? And then David kind of pours it out, or many of the Psalms are just like raw data, raw emotion. And so you go, now we can talk.
Now we can be honest.
Now we can get somewhere.
Yeah.
And so I've had those kind of situations, those episodes in life too, where you're like, God, I'm not your best salesman right now.
Yeah.
I'm just really not.
And then I've also learned in that, God, I'm not your best salesman, but in hindsight, I have learned that God has used me so much more in my honesty towards my relationship with Him for other people to see and watch, that I've had so many people come back and say, Thank you for being honest, just being real. And I'm like, you're welcome. I'm sorry I said all that. Sorry I acted that way. But they're like, no, our authenticity, I think, shows more of the gospel to people. That no, God is gone. God is there in you, with you right now.
Right.
Throwing you up on the side of the toilet. Like, just be where you are and understand that God is still there, holding you and loving you, and he still wants you. And he's still calling to you.
Well, that's the mystery of the incarnation.
Yeah.
I mean, is that we tend to, I love a lot of the movies, depicting Jesus, but they do tend to kind of picture him as somewhat pretty holy.
Yeah.
And because specifically
our perception of holy,
the accents are always Swedish and like looking pristine, and his robes are never dirty.
Right.
But the problem is that, and in others go the opposite way, where they kind of take a lot of liberties with the story, the narrative related to Christ in order to try to make it more interesting. Like, okay, none of that really works for me sometimes. Right. But the mystery of the incarnation is that all that, God saw fit to bring all of divinity, all of his deity, and basically embody that in every way that we experience in life. Mm-hmm. And so there's nothing about our human experience that somehow God would go, oh no, I can't, that's too much for me.
Yeah.
I really don't want to deal with that right now. And so all of our nitty gritty, all of our dirt, all of our gravel, everything that we go through, and to the point where we're in the point where we grieve in ways we can't even say.
Yeah.
And that's when you've got the Holy Spirit going, yeah, I know, I get you. Yeah. I've been there too. Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting because one of the first things I learned back when I had to, when Chief Fay says, go figure out what a fire chaplain is I spent time with other chaplains, and they would say, the first thing you learn is the ministry of presence. Mm-hmm. Because Job's friends had it right for the week they were shut up.
Yeah.
And they had nothing to say. Then they open their mouth and it all falls apart. Mm-hmm. But, Job is going through all this process, and they just sat with him for a while. Then they start looking for explanations, and that's where it really starts to break down. But nevertheless, when you just sat with someone, and I can't tell you how many times I've sat with someone there, and they told me, boy, you knew exactly what to say, which is very humbling because I didn't say anything. Yeah. Yeah. Like, really? Yeah. It seemed like I went through all the seminary and all that experience just to learn how to shut up. Yeah. And just sit with someone in the hospital room, or just sit with someone when they're, or oftentimes when I run those calls, I'm there just sitting with someone kind of with my arm around one spouse while you're doing compressions on the other spouse.
Right.
Pragmatically, it helps me. I can run interference at the same time.
Yeah.
But because you've got the Lucas tool on this person, which looks kind of violent.
It is.
And while I'm there praying with this person, just being that comfort.
Right.
But all necessary hands are dealing with the patient.
Right.
But there's no formula. There's nothing to share. There's nothing to go, okay, I know exactly what to say in that moment. Yeah, the best thing to say was nothing.
Yeah. I go back to when my daughter passed, and almost get me crying thinking about this. And my dad, it was early in the morning. She ended up passing away. We had our moment with her. We didn't call anybody. We just had our moment with her. I called my dad, and he came over. And he just walked in, didn't say a word, and just held me. I'm holding her dead body.
Right.
And he just put his arms around me and didn't say a word. Right. Probably 10, 15 minutes. I'm not sure. He didn't need to say a word. Just being there. Right. Just experiencing the gravity and the gravitas of the loss in the mourning, and was just there.
Right.
There were a lot of other people who came who did very similar things, and I can remember their faces. One actually, an Anglican priest out north of Charlotte, great guy, Dave Livin. I don't know if you know him. He's a rector at a church up there. And they were just there. Didn't say a word. And that brought more comfort than all the other words that were said. Because to Joe, as soon as most of those people opened up their mouths, it's like, just stop talking.
I know, right?
I'm just cut your ear. I'm going to punch you in your nose right now because I'm about to lose my religion. Just stop talking. But in that, how it correlates to our job as a firefighters, and 80% of our job is the medical call. We do all the medical calls in Dothan. It's just being there. Again, like I said, being there having our best day on someone's worst day, but understanding that this is their worst day. Sometimes they just need someone just to be there.
Well, you show up And again, like I said, 911 call started with prayer, whether they were conscious of it or not.
Right.
It started with prayer. And you show up and you're in uniform, and instantly just your presence alone goes, okay, this is no longer just my emergency.
That's it.
It's now involved someone else with training, with competence, with understanding.
Yeah, I go back to a call. I won't go into the details of the call, but I was the first in on this one. And an older lady, she might have been in her 80s, trying to do compressions on her husband. And the first thing she said was, "Oh, thank God you're here." Yeah. Like, to that point, that's just being there, knowing that they're not going through that whole thing all by themselves.
Yeah.
Not taking the God complex of, hey, I'm here,
right.
But just knowing that, no, I get to be the hands and feet in this moment, not just for the individual who's down, but even more so for the families that need someone.
And you don't, because when you talk to that new recruit who says, I don't want to lose my sensitivity for people, like I oftentimes want to calm their fears and say, you won't, because God will supply you with occasional calls that remind you.
Yeah.
Because there will be that occasional call, not every one of them, but there will be that occasional call where you sit and just go and just think about it.
Yeah.
And while you're playing your video games at the station, or just sitting out back, or
we don't do that. What are you talking about?
Or whatever. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm just Call of Duty is nothing. But I mean, or my thing is I just sat back and I have like this Gandalf pipe. I just sit out like on their smoking area and just sitting like, hey, Jet, dude, talk. But you talk about it a little bit. But that you will provide you with that call that will remind you positively, but sometimes that one call can stand out based upon where your station in life is that really hits you different than others too.
Absolutely.
Pediatric drowning, all of a sudden now, like, that child is my kid's age.
Yeah.
And now I understand there's a good peer support program with DFT as well. Yeah. And so now you're like, I need to talk to some people about this because this is starting to get under my skin.
And it's imperative. That's one thing I get to hit with the recruits. And unfortunately, I didn't get much when I went to recruit school, but really understanding the need of that peer support, whatever program you want to call it, whether you go through the official peer support program or you just realize that you have good people in your department that you can talk to, but you have to talk about it. And if you don't, I tell other recruits about a time, I'm very lucky. I have a wonderful wife. And she just looked at me one day and she's like, "Joel, what is wrong with you?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? I'm fine." Like, you're not. It's like you're extremely short, you're snappy, you are grumpy all the time, and it's not you. That's not who you are, Joel. What is going on? And I kind of stopped and I started thinking about it. Like, what if I'm being this way? And then, I mean, of course, we all know when we're really that way. And like, okay, there's clearly something going on that I just haven't really dug deep. And I started thinking, for like 6 months, it seemed like almost every single shift, there was some kind of death that I had to deal with. It probably wasn't every single shift, but quite often, higher than normal rate. And some pretty traumatic death that I was having to be a part of, from very nasty suicides to death of children, pulling a couple bodies out of fire. I mean, it's just like bam, bam, bam. Sometimes people don't experience that over a whole career, and it was really a rough time. And I started realizing I'm not dealing with those things. As firefighters, we have to learn to compartmentalize. Compartmentalization is an extremely beneficial thing for a firefighter. The problem is on the backside of that, we have to figure out how to decompartmentalize or decompress. And if we don't learn how to do that properly, it just builds up. And I wasn't doing that properly to where it was coming out towards my family, coming out towards my friends. And I really try to hit with the recruits, like, you have to find somebody, whether it's somebody, a great friend that you get here in recruit school. I got one of my best friends I met in recruit school. And we talk once a week, once every other week. Sometimes it's just about nothing. I mean, we are two completely opposite people. He's a good old country boy with chicken farms, and I'm, me. We're just completely opposite people. But we talk about life, and we talk about calls we go on and frustrations we go on, and it's just our decompression time. Right. And there's so many other things, but find somebody that you can talk to, and then find somebody that's not associated with this world that you can talk to, that can help you process these things. Because if you don't, it's going to build up.
Well, James, of course, James says, confess your sins one to another so that you may be healed. Yeah. And that principle of conversation and healing has multiple layers to it. Yeah. We, in our tradition, we actually have private confession that we offer because this is one of the Catholic traditions that does so. And so that manner in which the priest takes on the burden of saying, You're welcome to, you talk about whenever you need to in the manner that you want a human ear to listen to talking to God. And then our responsibility is to pronounce their absolution of your sins, as give the human voice to when we're told, if we confess our sins, you're faithful and just to forgive us all in righteousness. You're supposed to be the human voice to that too.
Right.
So that's that's kind of like in a very core sense where that gets played out. But there are concentric circles that come out from that too, where conversation leads to healing, where you can see these principles extrapolated out in a very specific way. I oftentimes say that I love firefighters. I have absolutely had this passion for the fire service, but over time I developed kind of like a parallel or an adjacent heart for law enforcement as well. And I'm somewhat kind of sympathetic to law enforcement because they don't have the advantages of the fire service in that they're all in their personal vehicle, oftentimes their own vehicle, and then sometimes many times that vehicle, once they go off shift, goes home with them. But you don't really see this powwow of SO deputies or PD officers there in one spot. Maybe they had lunch together, or maybe you see their cars facing each other in the middle of the highway, but they don't, nothing like the table.
Right.
The table is the most sacred piece of furniture in a station.
Absolutely.
Archaeologically, you would consider that the structural center.
Yeah.
Because all hallways lead to it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, even over here, Station 3, big logo in the middle of the table. And at Seminole County, every station had kind of a mascot, its own shield, and the table became this customized thing.
Yep.
And that's where the biggest amount of confession takes place.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the table is where people will develop dark sense of humor, where they talk about their calls, where they debrief after what they saw. And even sometimes where the captain or lieutenant is, being able to assess someone needs like, hey, we need to talk to peer support. Why don't you go talk to someone or work that up the line?
Right.
But there's this culture of confession in a sense, because confession isn't just confessing your sins. Confession is conversation about the effects of sin.
Yeah, it's good
too.
The effects of it, I like that.
And in many ways, you're experiencing the effects of a fallen world. You're experiencing the effects of sin in many ways. If the wages of sin is death, every time you experience death, you experience death, it's getting on you.
Right.
The effects of sin is getting on you, and it requires conversation. Otherwise, like a pressure relief valve, it kind of builds up over time until something can crack it open.
Right.
And conversation is how we crack that relief valve open so it doesn't build up pressure and make us sick.
Yeah.
That's why I think that James kind of associates confession with healing in many ways, because we are sickened by having that build up so much. Yeah. I'm really happy to see that there's such a robust peer support program here.
It is, in fact, our what we call our multi-company drill. So twice a year, we try to bring out multiple engines to do big scenario training. We decided, our new fire chief really wanted to push the peer support, walking into taking over as fire chief. So we changed our multi-company drill. In fact, it's going on right today. It started this week, where we have a doctor who works really close with us with the peer support program coming in and just talking about it. Like, listen, and it's really hard to talk about those things with firefighters. We're man, we can deal with it, and and just the culture that we live in. But really trying to hit no, guys, yes, we are men and we can deal with it. That's our job. We deal with it and we figure it out. But sometimes it takes a little more. Sometimes it takes a little bit more guidance to really deal with it. And what I really like about a program is it's not just a doctor who's never experienced what's going on. It is other firefighters who can come alongside to walk through that process, and then maybe not give them the exact help that is needed, but there's a process there to get them to the right place. Right. Yeah.
Well, critical incident stress management is something that I first started hearing about with my first department. And the National Federation of Fire Chaplains, they would have this annual conference, and they were just starting to talk about, everyone has talked about CISM, but they were just started talking about peer support programs that were going into the departments. This is about 20 years, almost 20 years ago, geez. And everyone was excited about this idea of peer support programs, because now you basically would have specifically members of the department who were trained to be sensitive to this,
Mm-hmm.
and they kind of think about the ongoing health of your personnel
Right.
in a different way.
Right.
And especially when a bad call comes up, and you're like, okay, station this just dealt with a pediatric death. This one just had to pull bodies out of a fire, whatever. Well, then oftentimes that shift would be, at least for a couple hours, would quickly be covered by the others, while peer support comes in and says, okay, everybody stop. We're going to talk about this, because you want critical incident stress debriefing right away.
Yeah.
And what kind of conversation can we have about this? What you experience, what you see, and so forth. And in many ways, what their finding was, little bits at a time, they cracking that pressure relief valve open enabled some to not take it home.
Yeah.
Or at least be able to talk about it with their spouses, or
Right.
talk about it at home in such a way that where all that pressure had already gotten a chance to get released.
Right. So I'm not releasing all that pressure on my spouse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we were very encouraged to hear about all that.
I think it's going to take.
I'm sorry. I know we got.
Oh no, I'm fine. It's my phone telling me I need to stand up. I'm sitting too long. I think to make something like that extremely successful, and this is just talking out loud, and I think we're heading in the right direction. Is we need to create a good culture within our fire station itself that's led by our captains, that's led by our sergeants, modeling what that looks like. Some do a great job, some don't. But if we can get our station as a whole realizing, no, we need to do this. Like me being a sergeant, let me tell you about what I thought about that call. Or I remember my very first Captain Bodifer, I'm sitting around I'm a red shirt. Back in the day when you first started, you had to wear a red shirt the entire first year of your probation year. So I'm a red shirt. And the rule with red shirts is you just sit there and be seen. You don't say a word, right? And if you ever get to know me, I got a lot to say. I got a lot of opinions about things. So I'm just sitting there. I did my best keeping it nice and cool and calm that whole year. And we went to a really bad call. And my captain just looked at me. And I don't think he knew he was doing this, but I think in hindsight, looking at what happened afterwards and how everyone was able to talk about it, he led the way, understanding he was doing it or not. He just looked at me and goes, Joel, you're the pastor. Like, why does God let that happen? And I'm like,
you're killing me.
I'm a red shirt. You don't want, like, I'm not
Right.
supposed to give you my opinion. But in that, him doing that, and of course I was able to talk it out and talk about sin and disease in the world and death and all that, and where that came from. Hey, you're asking a pastor a question. I'm gonna give you the right answer.
Right,
I might not give you the political answer. I'm giving you the right answer. And I was able to do that. But him being able to open up in that honesty of frustration around that table. That's one thing I love about the table, is there really is no rank.
No.
Especially in those moments. There's no rank. We're just a bunch of guys sitting around processing this atrocity that we just walked through together.
Right.
And he just opened up, and everyone was able to kind of like, yeah, or well, actually, and it starts a great conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And at the end of course, we're still processing, we're still dealing with it, but that relief valve was there, that pressure of, there's a safe place.
Well, the table's sacred furniture. I mean, I look at it as just about every piece of furniture in any given station. We got 10 stations here, and just about every piece of furniture in any given station is somehow interchangeable. But any station's table oftentimes is something where someone's already written their name, they've already carved their initials, they've already that's their spot where they sit.
Yeah.
It's something that's non-interchangeable to any given station.
Yep.
And so every firehouse has this most sacred piece of furniture is the table.
Yep.
You're not changing that out.
Not at all.
That is specific to them.
We I just thought of, we say everyone has their specific seat. We like to say, there are no assigned seats, but you don't sit there. That's my seat. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because everyone knows, hey, this is our area. This is my place. That's your place. That's where he sits. That's where the chief sits.
Well, from what I've seen so far, Dothan FD has really achieved that area of status where it seemed like everybody else around the area should be looking to them as kind of like the standard of excellence.
Right.
So far it's been my privilege to visit every station so far.
Okay.
I know that Dothan FD has a chaplain, but I couldn't help myself. I
Yeah,
wanted
do
to.
it.
I wanted to get acquainted and just say,
Yeah.
and just leave my card there and say, I am an extra
there's
resource.
nothing wrong with that.
Extra resource if anyone wants to ever talk. But I've tried to get by and visit every station, every shift as well.
Yeah.
And every time I go by, everybody is just so one, professional. Their station's clean. Everything's just very impressive.
Yeah.
All the
Good.
personnel I've
Glad to
met
hear
so
that.
far. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we have a great chaplain, Alan Singley, really super kind guy. He pastors a church out in Wicksburg area, but he's one individual, and I would argue one individual can't handle 200 plus people the way that needs to be done. So you coming out there just being a guy that, hey, I'm here. If you need me, I'm around.
Seminole County had 3.
Yeah, we had 2 for a while.
Okay.
One step back. He's no longer a chaplain with us. So hey, you never know what might happen.
We'll see what Chief Hasty has to
Yeah,
say because
yeah.
because you serve at the
Absolutely.
at the will of the chief, and
Yeah.
so but no, I just for us that's why when we first came here, I think part of the reason why I fell in love with this church, and don't tell anybody at my church that I
I'll
said
tell
this.
everybody.
Okay. They know this. They know this. As soon as I walked up, and as soon as I walked up and looked at the church, I was, this is really beautiful. It's a really nice
Yeah.
church. And then I heard the tone go off at Station 3 next door. I'm like, oh, this is where we're going.
There it is.
Exactly
Right there.
right.
So,
Well,
so how long did you come when this building was built?
Yes,
So
yes.
you've been here
1 year.
relatively 1 year.
One
Okay.
year. This building was finished
Okay.
in 2023.
Okay.
And so it was just finished in 2023, and almost simultaneous to when they finished it,
Okay.
they went through a leadership change.
Okay.
And so they didn't actually, many people continued to meet here and worship, but they actually didn't have a priest for some time.
Okay. Did they? I'm just curiosity. Was this parish church?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Did it start during the Anglican Episcopal split, or was this something later on?
So our denomination started in the 70s when
Okay.
many Anglican groups were breaking away from the Episcopal Church
Okay.
at that time.
Okay.
And this is oftentimes people will ask me, I'll show up at the station and they'll be like, what in the world is Anglican? You're going to help me with this, chap. And so I tell them, I say, well, 100 years ago, Episcopal and Anglican were synonymous terms.
Yeah.
Now them's fighting words.
Yeah.
Because if the church has Episcopal in the name, you're more likely than not it'll be more progressive,
Yep.
keeping with the times. And if it has Anglican in the name, with some exceptions, more likely than not it sticks with traditional views
traditional,
of
conservative
traditional
views.
doctrine,
Yeah.
traditional views of the Bible, traditional sexual ethics
Right.
as well. And so that's us.
Yeah.
And our whole denomination, the Anglican Province of America, was
Province of
among
America.
those
Okay.
groups that split away in the 70s.
70s. Okay.
And so, but this church actually been in existence since 1985.
Okay. Okay.
So it started as a small Anglican parish and just but had to operate and meet in different places
areas,
for all that
right,
time.
right.
A bank, lobby, someone's home, Glover funeral home for a
Okay.
while.
Mhm.
And then finally they were able to pool enough resources to purchase this
Okay.
four set of lots here and build their first facility. And they were kind of growing in those days, but then sometimes churches go through
Yep.
their ebbs and valleys, and
Yeah.
so went through a challenge. And as a result, their congregation kind of restricted. Their priest had to find another position, and they were without a priest for a time.
Okay.
And so there I was, an archaeologist as a deacon, going, I have no desire to do this full time, but send me anywhere you want to fill in.
Yeah.
And we show up here and went, oh, I guess this is what we're doing now.
Yeah.
All those strange, weird tinglies that we call calling.
Yeah.
We don't know what we mean
Yeah.
when we say that, but we call calling.
Yep.
Basically all came to bear. And
Yep.
my wife and I are driving back as we were visited here. And I said, did you just see what I just saw? She goes, yeah, I saw it too.
Yeah.
I know this is what we're doing.
No, I get that. I tell Thomas, the guy who helped set this up, coincided with going into training, we actually planted a church as well. And Thomas is a good friend of mine, and they were attending for a little bit, and they decided, I think we're going to check out the Anglican church. My first response to him was, actually, if we didn't feel called to do this, I told us that we would be at the Anglican church.
Oh, wow.
With there, just a little bit of understanding that I have. Like I mentioned, my friend who's an Anglican priest up in north of Charlotte, just love the tradition, love the liturgy behind all of that, and really when you start to understand the meaning behind all that.
Right.
I didn't grow up traditional at all. Grew up in I like to say crazy charismania church. So I come from
Baptist-costal.
Oh, there you go.
That's my background.
There you go. So I grew up very Baptist-costal and a little bit more crazy charismatics. And so coming out of that, I didn't grow up with any of that. But I would like to say my journey, as my dad would say, the journey of life.
Right.
Through the journey and really starting to understand the meaning behind all of that. I really fell in love with much of what you guys do.
We're getting a crazy influx of young people now.
Yeah.
The demographic shift is really interesting, because what we're finding is that a lot of young people, many people lament the postmodern instinct to kind of question all things that are nailed down. But there's a silver lining to that too. A lot of the postmodern cynicism has given over to some pre-modern appetites for mystery, for tradition, for things that are deeper than what you can explain.
Right.
Recognizing that some things are so deep that it's clumsy to describe them.
Yes.
You can only symbolize them.
That's it. And then be okay with that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And
like
so
be okay with the mystery of it.
Yeah. It's like my faith I had but little faith if I could describe it well.
Yeah.
And so in many ways, our sacraments, our Sunday, our liturgy is all basically, it leaves itself open for a lot of people to read their meaning into it, because it's so pregnant with meaning.
Right.
In many ways.
For me, like, it really started when I really started looking at communion. Not just being the thing that we do on a Sunday morning with a little tiny plastic cup and a wafer, but looking at my friend Dave, really just in conversation, you might not even knew that he did it, would challenge, like, there's so much more behind what communion is than it is just taking the bread and taking the wine. So diving into that, really, okay, the symbolism, but also the reality and the mystery behind it.
Oh gosh,
is beautiful. And being someone in the church for, I'm old. My entire life, 40-some years, really into ministry, right out of high school, right into Bible college, from there into working at a church, and then heavily involved within church my entire life. Yeah. But really diving into the mystery behind it, and the gravity, the gravitas, the depth of it. I just love it. I really do.
It took me a while. Like I said, the fire service was very influential in bringing me along. Yeah. Just because they taught me the embodied view of God's presence. Yeah. That's good. Because I thought of it more as a utilitarian fashion before that. And then, but having spent time now, and I still find that there just isn't anything that I look at and go, oh, that's merely the barrier between sacred and secular, between spiritual and material. These things get really blurry.
They really do.
And rightly so. Yeah. Because now and it kind of opens up the Bible in some ways for you also. Like, oh, I never really thought of it that way. And now now I see it. I'm like, okay. I get it. I get you. Yeah. So, and when I learned, it taught me about why the ministry of presence is so a big deal, because you're embodying the comfort of God in people. You're just with them. It's like, these are things that aren't just deconstructable into mere functions. Right. I oftentimes tell people, I found that there was like these 4 steps of getting into good graces with firefighters. Step one is you show up at a station and they're like, who the heck are you and why are you in my space? And then step 2 is they finally start talking to you, but they spend all their time apologizing for their language. Yeah. And then
I got to do that too sometimes.
And then step 3 is now they finally start talking to you regularly because they realize you listen to more what they say than how they say it. Right. But that's not the deepest part. The deepest part is when they finally welcomed you into their space, into their work. Yeah. Now that's kind of like Jesus going, okay, and the Word became flesh and rode the truck with us. Yeah. Okay. I had a shirt made for that, a fire chaplain's version of John 1:14.
That's pretty funny.
And the Word became flesh and rode the truck with us. Because that sense of stepping into the life where people are in the midst of answering someone's prayer. I mean, it's just, I never lose people talk about, recruits worrying that they'll lose their care of people that way. I tell them, I think you shouldn't worry about that so much, because like I said, for 17 years, I've been around the fire service. I've never lost my wonder of it. Any given call, I'm watching God work in ways I hadn't before until now. It's unbelievable. So, thank you so much for talking to me today.
Absolutely.
I really enjoy this. Thank you.
This was
I
fun.
really appreciate you willing to come and talk.
Absolutely. So, you ever need someone to talk to, ask anybody. I don't mind talking.
Oh, gosh.
I don't mind talking about what I do, and I don't mind going deep. So,
well, I enjoy it. I gotta hit you up for any time that maybe when you have trainings, and
Come on out.
I would love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah. We had, like I said, we're in the middle of a recruit school right now, week 5 of 11. So this week they are last week we had what we call Hell Week. It was pure hell for them. And our goal was to get them to quit. So that would have been a great week to come out.
All right.
It is essentially 1 day of lecture, 4 days of constant work, of literally pushing them to their limits, and realizing, like all firefighters have to realize that. And then you go a little more. Like, you don't have the option to quit because you're tired and exhausted. And it's really hard to add the stress of the fire in practice. And so we just add all the other stressors.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
A lot of screaming, a lot of yelling, a lot of loud noise, a lot of really small, tight places. A lot of crying.
It's all out of love,
yeah,
too.
It's 100% out of love. But that's one of the things I really love to see is to see these guys. And I say guys just because we don't have any girls in this specific one. But to see these guys, like, realize, like, I can do this. Like, to see that click. If anyone loves to teach, if anyone's ever taught before, most of them will talk about seeing the moment they realize.
You can watch the light bulb appear above their head.
It's amazing fantastic. To see that happen. Same thing happens in church when you're teaching. We're teaching through Hebrews 1. And as I'm teaching Hebrews 1 last week, just to kind of see that click of, oh, there's the Trinity.
Right.
Oh, it's not, yes, it's all here in these different, but it's also all right there.
Right.
Wow. Oh, that goes against what they taught me when they came to knock on my door. Oh, that's amazing. Like, but just to see that moment of that clarity, I get to see that.
Oh, yeah.
In training and recruit school all the time,
gosh.
and it's great.
Yeah, I oftentimes say I had the privilege of being proximate when learning occurred.
Yeah.
It was like lightning struck, and I was there to witness it.
Yeah. I told them at the very, very beginning, and I say it a lot, I'm just there to set up the atmosphere for you to learn. You got to take on the information that's given. I'm just creating the atmosphere for it. And to see it, and some of them it gets immediate. I personally, because I love the underdog, but to see the ones that join the fire service because we want to be firefighters, not comprehending what it takes to get there, and then have their oh crap moments in the very couple weeks, and then all of a sudden that moment of, oh, but that's okay. I'm a little better than I thought.
Right.
We have one guy, God bless it, he is such a good guy. He is such a good man, but he physically is he's lacking. And for him to see that he can go far more beyond what he has ever imagined. They did almost 8 miles this morning in a run. Like 8 miles for a kid who has never ran his life at all. And his smiling ear to ear, grinning, him doing just the physicality of it, realizing that, hey, he can hang in with the guy who did 4 years of college football, and he's right beside him. And he was that guy probably sitting by himself in the cafeteria table, and to see them all come together, that, hey, we're all doing this. It doesn't matter where we come from. We're all a part of this team, all part of this crew, and we're all doing this together. It's a great moment.
Oh, it's so rewarding.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when these new guys, and I tell them, I say, you understand, because oftentimes one of the first things that happens, I see the guilt kind of sets in a little bit when they first catch themselves going, I wonder if we'll get a fire today.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, wait, I shouldn't really think that. I'm like, dude, don't worry about it. I understand.
Just think it.
I understand. Yeah. You're not hoping someone's house catches on fire today, but you know that tragedies do occur, and it might as well be you handling it.
Yeah.
I said, because that's a very ancient instinct going back into times of old mythology.
Yeah.
The instinct of the dragon slayer. It's like monsters show up and they demand that you sacrifice a virgin or they're going to burn your crops.
Yeah.
Someone rides into town who can deal with that.
Right.
So it's not that I want all the dragon to damage your home this way, but I know this is what I'm constituted to do.
Yeah.
And so it might as well be you handling that emergency because you're going to be fulfilling your function.
Absolutely. I don't know what it is. I love. Sounds bad. Again, I love doing compressions on people. I don't want to ever have to do compressions on anyone ever, but I know that I'm able to do it adequately and at the right pace and the right rhythm, and I can do it for a long time, and I can. It just I just hone in. That's my thing, But I don't want it to ever have to happen again.
Right.
But to your point, I know that I can do it so well that if it has to happen, I want to be the guy doing it.
Right, exactly.
Because we had a crew we worked for a long time Like if you wanted to die, you need to die the day that we were working, because we worked so good as a crew. We all knew exactly our strengths and we knew our weaknesses, and we all worked together. I don't want you to die, but if you want to die, you need to die on B shift when Station 3 is there. Yeah.
So does your chap have you have an 11-week training academy, right? Is there ever a day when your chap comes in and like gives her kind of like a spiel to?
There's nothing specifically set up for that day, but he does come in here and he just introduces himself, let him know, hey, I'm here. Ever need anything, I'm around. He also comes and does. He's always around.
Okay, good.
People see him.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So,
Yeah.
well, I don't want to put my nose in where I shouldn't, but again, you can absolutely feel like whatever I can do, however I can be a resource to the department.
Yeah. Have you reached out to the fire department, Chief Hasty?
To Chief Hasty, I've met Chief Hasty many times. We've talked about, but I know he's really busy. Chief, was your previous chief? Why didn't I forget his name?
Chief Williams.
Chief Williams, yes. He and I it interacted a couple of times, and he said, "Okay, you kept my card." He's like, "I want to keep you on as as an extra resource. Consider you an extra resource."
Yeah.
But I still want to be careful about imposing.
I think that's a very, very smart and wise move. But, but yeah.
No, however we can do it, because this church prays for a different station every week.
Okay.
So in our standing prayers, there's prayers lists for people for specific needs. We have a prayer, something around our diocese we pray for, but a different station that we week. So this week it's station 5, 6, so forth.
Okay.
And so I always point out and say we're praying for this station because this is their coverage area.
Yeah.
Keeping them in prayer.
That's really good.
So
Appreciate that.
we very much this is a church that really I really want to have an affection for our fire department.
Right.
And the church has really been
bought into that.
Exactly
and understood it. Yeah.
Thank you very much for talking to me.
Yeah, I
really appreciate it.
Thank you.